Our names are Matthew Thompson and Andrew Thompson. We were born on the island of Maui, Hawaii. We are cellular and molecular biology students at the University of Oklahoma and co-authored the book entitled Hunger Management: A Road to Health and Longevity. Our interest in this matter began when our curiosity focused on the ongoing questions about how life happens, to which scientists, philosophers, and wise people have incomplete answers. We are mindful that the answers to questions about life may be right in front of us, and we just have to change how we look at the world and universe. This was certainly apparent from the images we see taken by the electron microscope and the Hubble telescope. We are living in a time of rapidly changing paradigms. Through biology, history, math, astronomy, geology, anthropology, and anatomy, we learned that our life forms are built from trillions of cooperative energetic microscopic cells living on a planet orbiting a star in a galaxy that's billions of years old. Education is teaching us about life and a dynamic way of understanding the world. We are identical twin brothers, and we were once asked whether we thought these microscopic cells were conscious individual creatures, and we both said yes. It seems logical that, if the brain was made of these creatures, and the brain was conscious, then the cellular creatures themselves must be conscious too. Andrew recalls.
I was astonished about the fact that we are made of trillions of microscopic conscious living creatures called cells.
We both were hooked on science and our curiosity grew. In 2019, we were introduced to a cellular process called signal transduction, cellular receptors, and G proteins. Signal transduction describes when cells receive an outside signal which results in a cellular response. The illustration is a simplified version showing the external signals and internal cellular pathways. There is a lot to learn here, folks. Another example is the neurotransmitters, which are the sensory transduction of the nervous system when the stimulus is converted to electrical signals by the neurons. This process involves receptors like G-protein coupled receptors, GPCR, embedded in the cell membranes and contain molecules that are changed in shape by the energy from the stimulus, leading to signal transduction, in which our brains interpret the universe around us. Like a bowling ball striking the head pin and the cascade that follows. Likewise, a stimulus reaches the cell and a series of events producing a cellular response and thus consciousness. The bowling ball is the stimulus such as light, sound, touch, tastes, or smells. The bowling pins are the energy elements like phosphate that is being transferred from one substrate to another, resulting in the genetic expression of a multitude of proteins that keep us alive and healthy. Abnormal events along these pathways or cascades form the pathological basis for disease like hypertension, diabetes, cancer, genetic disorders, and heart disease. To identify problems that lie within the complexities of such events and to design treatment strategies is one of the hottest fields in research and study. Understanding the complexities of cellular processes like signal transduction holds answers we can use to help people to have healthier and disease-free lives. Through our studies, we are learning how cells regulate energy and nutrients and the effect of overconsumption of foodstuffs in modern times. These eating behaviors are disrupting these cellular pathways. We are sharing early in our careers the knowledge that could help reverse the direction where overconsumption is causing human diseases. In the spirit of Hawaii, Kulia I Ka Nuyu. Translating to, strive to reach the highest.
Emergence of the Third Renaissance.
The third renaissance of the Matrix movie, machines tried to reason with humankind, but man would not listen. The struggle between man and machine began. Like the struggle between farmers and the growth of the industrial food complex, leading to the third renaissance of the food matrix that would grow to dominate over the lands and the beginning of commercialization. A focus on ever-increasing production, distribution, marketing, and sales with greater efficiency.
Recently, two college students, Matthew and Andrew Thompson, authored essays that describe the third renaissance of the food matrix. They wrote that there was a boom in American agriculture in the mid to late 19th century as more settlers had moved west during the period of Westward Expansion. This transition was the beginning of an agricultural movement that led to the emergence of commercialization. It first had seemed like a tremendous up-and-coming market to invest in, with the Transcontinental Railroad helping farmers move their crops and farming tools boosting crop yield production, but these all were two-edged swords of the maturing food matrix.
From the mid-19th to the early 20th century, farmers in the United States, particularly in the West, had one of the most demanding professions throughout American history due to the economic hardships such as tariffs that inflated costs, expensive railroad fees, and the deflation of their produce. The farmers created unions, who deveneer producers and distributors of their goods. The next major economic struggle was the deflation of their goods and crops due to increased crop yields culminating in an overproduction that affected prices.
The farmers encountered challenging financial situations that would begin to place more power in the hands of a few. They attempted to control the political and economic machinery unsuccessfully.
At the beginning of the 20th century, dreams of success and fortune were just that, a dream.
Yet, farming influenced changes in American society in more ways than expected by introducing new perspectives, techniques, and machinery in the farming business. Though success was occurring throughout the population of farmers in America, failure soon followed. Inevitably, the Industrial Revolution resulted in fewer human resources needed for farming. Additionally, with the ever-increasing complexities of agriculture, many people began migrating to urban centers for employment. What was once the primary means of sustenance for families was now obsolete. With this movement, the industry quickly began aggressively promoting food focused on increasing availability and consumption to follow wherever people migrated.
Food was transported and placed in markets for purchase with easy access and consumption, eliminating the total dependency on the old ways of hunting, foraging, and farming. The growth of large distribution centers, marketing firms, farming equipment manufacturers soon left little benefit to the average farmers.
The industry soon ushered in a new generation of Americans with ever-increasing food availability to eat at any time. Advances in technology finally began to stamp out hunger. The rise of consumerism was just around the corner as the industry took on Machiavellian principles.
The troubling effects of agriculture, the food industry, and consumerism became more transparent as we entered the last half of the 20th century. As a result, the hidden and uncontrolled nature of human hunger would lead them down the dark path of overconsumption. At the beginning of this transformation, few would realize the long-term effects. The corporatization of food production blossomed.
Thompson, an international public relations professional, gave a speech before the Public Relations Society in 1964. He warns us, in today's world in which science and technology have guaranteed man from becoming a victim of many natural forces of life, there is yet a tremendous minus factor, he says, at times seems to threaten the very existence of man on this planet. Mr. Thompson had the atom bomb in mind. I am sure he would be quite surprised to find out that overconsumption of food takes the credit for far more deaths than any bomb, including nuclear. He went on to say, which still rings true, that man has ignored the human side of his world, thus relying too much on our technology to solve problems, in and of itself, creates one.
Still, humankind has not fully considered that they could become the architect of their demise. The emergence of commercialization began to affect social and economic order. It encouraged the acquisition of goods and services in ever-increasing amounts. With farming overproduction and the emergence of industrial machines such as railroads, shipping, and air transportation, the supply of goods grew beyond consumer demand.
The birth of Merovingian-like marketing campaigns was purposed to influence our choices of foods and dietary behaviors. By psychological tactics designed to influence consumer choices with unconscious manipulation, effectively eliminating choice based on principles of cause and effect. For example, some breakfast cereals offer to lower cholesterol while also being laden with addictive sugars. Unknowingly, a growing false reality was growing and manipulating consumers. To date, evidence shows that significant consumer drivers like comfort, leisure, or increased enjoyment are supplying momentum in food marketplaces and propelling consumer buying behavior.
The Industrial Revolution in the 20th century led to overproduction. The supply of goods would grow beyond consumer demand, and so manufacturers turned to planned obsolescence and advertising to manipulate consumer spending. Products now had shelf life, where commodities were purposed to become outdated. The growing concerns of experts argued, we are troubled by the ensnarement of the food industry, and it's difficult to determine if we can survive its effects.
Thus the third renaissance of the food matrix was created by the industrial food machine and marketing. The age of consumerism had emerged. A new social and economic order that created the acquisition of goods and services in ever-increasing amounts.